Welcome everyone, Questini here with a discussion about Total War Warhammer 3 Immortal Empires. To talk about Autoresolve, I know I've made a number of videos on this subject, but I do need to highlight this, how utterly broken the system is. I demonstrated this in this very campaign, much earlier in this campaign. This is turn 56, this is my Lina campaign. This result might seem crazy, defeating Malekith, defeating Marafi, but truth be told, this result is something you can achieve yourself as either a Lina Tyrion, to some extent a Larry, although she might have a slower early game. But it doesn't matter. This result is doable. This is an unmodded campaign. The only mods that I have enabled over here are Toggle Fog of War and a legendary difficulty mod that disables the auto-saving so I don't get constant stutters whenever I, want to go into a pre-battle screen like a siege, or whenever I click the enter button, because it does affect overall performance. I do not have any Autoresolve mod, I don't have any gameplay mod, I don't even have the Autoresolve quest battle, so I had to fight the Lina's quest battle, which is honestly like, it's the 10th time I'm doing it, so I'm kind of at this point. And to further prove this point, I do have a campaign here as a Grumbrindle where it can show you that I don't have a lot of mods installed that I generally use, or a low-tier campaign where I had those Autoresolve mods that I do use. Now, I've made this point again and again and again in multiple videos, but here's the problem with Autoresolve as it currently stands. Every settlement, minor settlement, major settlement, has an Autoresolve benefit inherently. It counts as you getting free towers for an Autoresolve. So that's why whenever you attack a garrison or the AI attacks a garrison, the result is always going to be skewed in the favor of the defender. It doesn't matter which type of settlement it is. So for instance, over here, one of the issues in this campaign that a lot of people struggle is that Be'lakor is likely going to declare war on you, and he and his Norskins are going to attack your coast. Now, what some people do, and I disagree with them, what some people do is they build garrisons in the settlements here. I don't do that. You know what I do? I build an army, small army, doesn't have to be big. I build a small army of forces over here. Early on, it can be a full stack, and when the settlements are lower level, but I build an army, might be a full stack, spearmen and archers, and I farm Be'lakor for money and experience. It's been so ridiculous. Be'lakor has been at war against me for like 50 turns. I only recently got Tyrion to declare war on him, because I was just like, you know what, screw it, you can deal with him. I only recently got Tyrion to declare war on him, but I've been at war with him for like 50 turns or so, or close to it. And I've been literally farming him for experience. He is level 12 with low experience units because he's been sending stack after stack after stack against me, and I've been winning against him hands down. But I haven't fought him a single time in this campaign on a field battle. What I've done is leverage the Autoresolve benefit. Now, to be fair, he actually hasn't even attacked the settlement. But because I have a garrison, like earlier on, I had the garrison in a full stack, and that just meant I had the bigger numbers. And I was able to win. Now, I have just, I so mock Be'lakor that I only have an army of 8 units over here. And I'm like, you know what, you want to attack Karenkar? The garrison of Karenkar. Like, Karenkar itself could win an Autoresolve battle against Be'lakor. That is how ridiculous it is. So when it comes to siege battles, it is absurd how strong things are. Why exactly settlements have an Autoresolve benefit, I don't really know. Why Creative Assembly decided to go down that particular path for it in Warhammer 3. It feels like at some point with Creative Assembly, they wanted to deliberately slow down the AI. Like, one of the chief complaints in Warhammer 3 is that the AI is way too passive. Well, one of the reasons the AI is too passive is that whenever they attack a settlement, they might lose half their freaking army to the Autoresolve result just because of the Autoresolve benefit. And keep in mind, I'm as a player on very hard battle difficulty where the AI against me gets Autoresolve modifier. Now, imagine the AI against another AI faction dealing with a modifier from settlements. You suddenly start seeing ridiculous results. You start seeing factions getting wiped out just because they cannot overcome the Autoresolve situation. Or if they do overcome it, is very difficult. One of the reasons Belegar, for instance, almost always survives in every Dwarven campaign is, well, let's just put it like this. For any AI faction to overcome Izor is a very, very tall order, though it seems in this particular case the dwarves are on their last leg. The Empire is being wiped out. Durfu has taken the entirety of Lorem. Luan Leon Kerr has actually taken a significant portion of northern Bretonia. But things are not looking too hot over there. Things are not going very well at all, though Rapans might just be sailing soon enough to deal with Scrag. It's been an interesting situation over here, and, well, Lokir, look at Lokir, dude. Snitch and Lokir actually winning a campaign. That never happens, by the way, very rarely. Like, it's 1 in 1,000 for me, personally. So settlements have an Autoresolve benefit, which makes it utter rubbish. So, for instance, if I fought a field battle, or if I fought a battle, or if Be'lakor attacked Karankar here, yeah, I would win, most likely. But it would certainly be a far more difficult battle than just clicking a button and winning, and it would be more difficult than what I'm trying to do here. So, here's the nonsense. I have an army, led by a level 21 Archmage. She doesn't have a dragon yet, but she does have the Fiery Invocation spell. And she has plenty of items over here that she can use. She's in a good position. She's got gold ranked archers. She doesn't have gold ranked spearmen. She doesn't have the highest level noble, but she does have some artillery. She has gold ranked archers. And yet, if I try and win this battle on Autoresolve, I will lose. In fact, I will lose it even on the open field. The reason behind this is that I'm going up against Chosen. Okay, Chosen and Chaos Knights, etc., they're very dangerous. But this army would not lose against this army, even on the field of battle. I might have to corner camp, but this army would win. I would probably take some massive casualties. But if I actually attack this settlement in a siege, this would actually be significantly easier than you might think. Because you might think, oh, this army would be very difficult to win against in a siege battle, in an actual siege. No, see, this particular settlement layout has so many blind spots, and there's many blind spots in the vast majority of settlements, Empire settlements, Greenskin settlements, Dwarf settlements, etc., etc. Or there's situations where you only have like 1 or 2 towers covering an area, you just bring some artillery, deal with them as quickly as possible. That's why I have Eagle Claw bolt throwers. But in this case, there are blind spots. I deal with the blind spots, I have my archers kill as many units as possible until they run out of ammunition. I have picked up precise fletching, so I do have extra ammunition over here, and I'm not quite sure what my noble has. No, he has excellent. Okay, so I may not be able to win in the first go, but here's what I do: I'd go 1 round, do as much damage as I can between spells and archers, then I have some movement range. I would retreat, come back again, attack again, do that again, rinse, repeat until I can just either outright win, or I can get an Autoresolve win over there, because I have good casualty replenishment. This is nonsense. The idea that a legendary lord is weaker than an actual garrison is ridiculous. And this, again, applies also to what happens to the AI, not just what happens to you. You can really take advantage of this situation to, let's say you put an ambush, let's say you put an army in ambush stance next to a settlement, the AI just goes in, attacks the settlement, for instance, and suddenly they have to deal with a reinforcement army, they get wiped out. Or they're laying siege to a settlement, you bring some reinforcements, they attack the settlement, because of the AR benefit, you win. You end up in a situation with a campaign dynamic where you win the vast majority of battles. You can auto-resolve the vast majority of field battles by abusing the situation. I've only lost 3 battles in this entire campaign. I've only fought 6 battles in this campaign, mostly sieges. Very, very few. I've taken some significant casualties in some of these battles against Morathi, against Malekith and all that. I actually lost quite a few units over here. That's why some of these units are not quite the same rank, but I got so tired of fighting the endless siege loop. Like, it was enough for me to fight 6 battles, and I'm like just done with. I was just done. So right now, the current system where any settlement gets a massive benefit in defense for no good reason, the towers don't matter. You might think, oh, it's the towers and barricades. They don't matter. Even if you're talking about a melee-centric faction, it doesn't matter, right? You play Warriors of Chaos, you play Scarbrand in a siege, let me tell you this. It is easier to win a Scarbrand in a siege battle than it is to win on an open field. Because on an open field, if you're going up against, let's say, on an open field, if you're going up as Scarbrand against a lot of range units, then, well, you're just letting those, you're just giving those range units opportunities to hit you. Same in a siege, that doesn't work because the AI is going to be less effective with its range units in a siege. On a field, against a melee army, if they have more numbers than you, then you allow them to encircle you. Whereas if you're fighting in a siege with a melee army, keep in mind, which generally should take more damage, but in a siege against swarms of melee units versus on an open field, well, on an open field, again, they can flank you, they can hit you on multiple sides, whereas in a siege, you can use their choke points, and you should use their choke points against them. That is the problem. Sieges are generally going to produce a better result if you fight them. Field battles are going to produce a better result if you auto-resolve them, if you can. The hardest battle that I actually fought in this entire campaign, by far, the one that I might have lost, and almost did, is, and like, ignore these defeats. These were mainly minor settlements that got raised. Tarax played his role in this, for instance. The hardest battle that I fought was against the Sisters of Twilight with their entire army over here in Hag Hole. But it wasn't difficult. Like, this is same Sisters of Twilight who I out-resolved against on a field battle. The reason this was difficult is because, surprisingly, Wood Elf Settlement siege layout is actually very good for the defender. Yes, you assault, like, Wood Elves are the one major fucking exception in the entire game when it comes to settlement layouts. Like, if you attack a Wood Elf settlement and you fight him manually, the defender actually gets an advantage. The reason is, shocking enough, the attacker has to go through choke points. So if you're attacking one of these places, you can't deploy your army properly. You're going to have to funnel through choke points. Meanwhile, they get a lot of room to actually deploy all their range units. So suddenly, you get bombarded by Wood Elf range units, and you take significant damage. I did manage to win it. I did keep my entire army alive, but I also lost half my army in a manual battle, which almost never happens. Let alone the fact some of my heroes and Lifanar himself were almost dead from the process. I mean, the Sisters should be like that in a field battle. But in a field battle, you almost never fight the Sisters because their unresolved situation is so bad because of armor. The reason is because of armor. So if you're playing Kislev, if you're playing Tomb Kings even, like basically if you're playing any legendary lord around the Sisters of Twilight, with the exception of Tarax, who can ambush and obliterate them anyway, if you're playing any legendary lord again around the Sisters, anyone, any of the Dark Elves, any of the High Elves, and Katep, hell, if you want to go as Mazdamundi or Yanbo all the way north, anyone near the Sisters of Twilight gets a significant auto-resolve benefit against them. Why? Because generally speaking, the armor of your units is going to be higher than what they have. Like, it might just be 30 armor, but you basically get a ridiculous auto-resolve benefit in field battles. The way the current system works is such a perversion because you're forced to fight a lot of these minor inconsequential settlement battles. And even field battles, like the battles you want to fight, the battles you should fight, because you can severely reduce the casualties you take, are every siege battle in the game, every minor settlement battle in the game, and every single minor field battle, like a rebellion or something like that, to reduce casualties. But it's kind of the judges out. The battles that you don't want to fight, unless you are forced to, the battles you don't want to fight, understand how stupid this system is. The battles you do not want to fight are battles against the legendary lord. So those are the actual battles that are the most interesting. Those are the battles that push you as a player because guess what? Defeating a legendary lord is going to be a lot fucking harder than a garrison with no experience. Between these two battles, the tier 5 garrison with the garrison building over here and Be'lakor, I'm going to tell you flat out, like this army, even with the garrison behind it, if it fought a field battle against Be'lakor, even a siege battle, manually, it would be a far harder win than this army. Relative strengths, relative situation. Be'lakor could actually win this battle. He never will, because again, I'll just auto-resolve him. Or I'd abuse the towers, to be honest. But in a straight-up confrontation, Be'lakor is the harder thing to defeat. As opposed to fucking Garrison. I mean, actually, it's even more perverted. This army auto-resolved Valkia, of all people. Fucking hell. Like, imagine that. Valkia, who's like... Valkia is like one of the craziest legendary lords to go in a battle. Forget Scarbrand. You make him a pincushion and kill him. But Valkia is very, very difficult to kill. And she has an army of maniacs, so you can't ignore her because she'll kill a lot of her, your units. But if you try and kill her, she'll just be invulnerable for a good amount of time, and you'll have problems, and her army will just kill you. So dealing with Valkia is absolutely a nightmare in a field battle, but you just go in, click a button, win. So this is where Autoresolve mods come in. And these Autoresolve mods do not change this, because they do not change the Autoresolve benefit that does exist in... they do not change the situation with Legendary Lords, but what they do at least allow you to. So, increasing Autoresolve modifiers, removing settlement Autoresolve benefits, they actually vastly improve the situation for the AI and vastly improve the kind of battles you fight. Yes, if you use those kind of mods, you can end up in a situation where you can auto-resolve every single battle in a campaign, including Legendary Lords. But ultimately, you can auto-resolve against Legendary Lords anyway, unless they have a significant numbers advantage, and there's always ways to cheese that on the campaign. Fair enough. So if you're going 2-1 on a field battle, that's something you're probably still going to have to fight. Hell, it's not like you won't have to fight any kind of battle with that. I can assure you of that. You won't just think... Like, I've had situations even with those mods. But I think the bigger problem is how the auto-resolve works inherently. It values armor too highly. It values defenses too highly. It doesn't value abilities. Here's what I think the auto-resolve should value. It should value the experience of your units far more. It should value the ranks of your lords and heroes far more. It should value the size of your army far more than it does. Yes, experience... ranks of lords and heroes should count. So in this case, and settlements should have no auto-resolve benefits. So this army, which can win, I emphasize, should win the auto-resolve result here. Like, I should have been forced to fight Valkia manually, but I shouldn't be forced to fight this. But I fought Valkia. I took minimal casualties fighting Valkia. That's the crazy fucking thing. Yes, she didn't have an army of chosen behind her, but still, she had enough in her campaign. Actually, I defeated Valkia multiple times. Auto-resolved against Hellebron. Yes, the insanity goes even further. And you end up in a situation where you don't fight the most interesting battles, you fight the crappiest battles. They do not make you a better player. That's the thing that Creative Assembly should change. Now, the way the damage model works, all that. Now, I understand that the auto-resolve system we got in Warhammer 3 is in many ways miles ahead of what we had previously. Like, you look at our resolve situation in Warhammer 1, even Warhammer 2. I mean, there are some things I do like about Warhammer 2, at least in the early game of it, and especially when we're talking about sieges, because yes, you can auto-resolve siege battles in Warhammer 1 and 2, but it also ends up being a bit too ridiculous. But at least in Warhammer 1 and 2, the battles you are forced to fight, generally speaking, will be battles that you can actually lose. Whereas in Warhammer 3, the battles you are forced to fight are the kind of battles that you might be able to win without breaking a sweat. Like, let me be clear on this. You don't have to use proper tactics. You don't have to be clever on the battlefield. You don't have to sweat it out. You don't have to worry about uniformations. And it makes you a more mediocre player in battles because you build your entire armies around dealing with sieges. Because you know those are the battles that you are going to have to fight the most. If you can get past the field battles, but you have to fight every siege to minimize casualties, that is not a good system. So, now we can talk about how the game is focused on hyper-aggression. That is a separate issue that should be tackled differently than just making every siege a painful piece of crap. Because some people, that's what they argue. Some people will argue, oh, just make sieges harder. To which I reply, sieges are an annoying piece of shit already. Like, don't add to that. Like, honestly, one of the reasons I use these Autoresolve mods, the biggest reason I would use mods is to just not have to fight a single fucking siege in a campaign that are that crap. Some people argue it's like, oh, sieges should be harder. There's no way to make a siege harder at the moment. All you can do is make them more annoying Forcing the player to build more siege equipment, it makes it annoying. Making so you can't instantly attack makes it annoying. Adding more units to the garrison, never mind the fact that these garrisons can already get a significant number of units, makes it annoying. You can get 20 units in a garrison, that's not the problem with sieges. And you can get, like, really powerful units. These are powerful units. Why exactly a garrison has knights in it, that's a different discussion. And, you know, when it comes to making sieges annoying, I'd say, like, if you want to make sieges challenging, it should be that AI actually sallies out of the walls far more often. Like, if you park an entire ranged army, like you do with the High Elves, Dwarves, many other factions, you park a ranged army and just snipe them, it's like the AI should just charge the hell out of you. They might actually win in that situation. You might have to adopt different tactics in that case. But right now, they're just really, really annoying, and they're not these sieges against armies that don't even have a lord in them should not be the case. Now, this isn't me arguing, though, saying that, oh, if a lord gets added to an army, the Autoresolve just swings. That I feel would just be that I feel would be a bit ridiculous. Though, keep in mind, a lord actually leading a defense of a siege makes that siege harder, especially if it's any high rank. Though it shouldn't just be like, oh, a lord is added to an army, that army gets an auto-resolve benefit. Or you have a level 1 lord in a garrison, suddenly that garrison is far more powerful. No, if you have a, let's say, rank 7 or rank 10 lord, yes, absolutely, that would be the case, but not just because there is a lord on the field. So I think experience should count for a lot, items should count for a lot, abilities should count for a lot. Why does the Autoresolve not take into account, I don't know, Ekeclaw's nuclear weapons, Drazov's constant tactical nuclear weapons? Because, yeah, like, consider this. Drazov has one incredibly powerful ability in the nearby regions, and it's the Dreadquake Battery. This can wipe out significant portions of any army he fights on a field battle. Like, fighting Drazov is a nightmare if you have to manually fight him, because he'll always use it. He has 2 uses of this, and while it's not quite as powerful as Ikeclaw's nuke, it's still pretty crazy what that ability can do. But no, that doesn't necessarily matter in an Autoresolve either. So, armor should count less, experience more, hero ranks, lord ranks, legendary lords. Like, any legendary lord, actually. Like, I would not say a lord should count in a battle just because they're a lord, but a legendary lord should count. Like, you should be forced to fight. Like, if a legendary lord is leading an offense, yeah, that siege is probably going to be a lot more difficult than it otherwise would. Because killing Valkia at a celibate is a dicey proposition, suffice to say. That's all I had to say. Costin signing out. Stay tuned for more.